the reason Democrats don't want voter ID is because they make it much more difficult for elderly people that don't travel, don't have a passport, poor people, that don't have cars, don't have driver's licenses. So it's sort of a vestige of, I think, post-slavery laws where black people had to prove their right to vote, and oftentimes they couldn't vote because they couldn't pass some crazy test, or they didn't have the appropriate ID. It also affects women that are married. Maybe your passport reflects something that's different on your birth certificate or on your driver's license. So really, the bottom line is voter suppression, and I agree with him 100%. It's a brilliant notion that less voter ID laws allows more people to vote. And most democracies do it that way. We're the only ones that really don't do it that way.
Right. I mean, I think it's been considered fact by most that the more people that vote, the more likely it is that Democrats have an advantage.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it does make sense.
That's why there's gerrymandering,
right.
and that's why there's voter suppression, and that's why Republicans want this voter ID.
What? First of all, every black person, woman, should all be so infuriated that she said that. But this is what the Democrats think. They think, I don't even think they believe it, first of all. They don't believe it. They're using this as a way to keep people from pushing the voter ID.
Well, they're using it to stay in power. This is a political ploy. You know, we live in a state where our congressional map looked like a smashed, broken wing pterodactyl. And then we said, okay, we're going to fight hard to get it better. And it's just a little bit better. Not a lot better. But this is absolutely the bigotry of low expectations. They did many man on the streets in New York City asking people, hey, do you have an ID? And people are like, of course I have an ID. Show me a person who got married with no ID. No. Show me one person who doesn't have enough identification living in 2025. And I'll say, okay, Sonny, I'm going to give you 1% of the population. Maybe Appalachia, maybe, someone who is a very, very, very old person, late 80s, early 90s, maybe light on ID. But hear me on this. If you can't figure out how to get an ID, I don't want you voting. You have so many other things in your life that should take precedence over you voting. Again, this is not about making sure that all Americans have the right to vote. This is about them letting these illegals that they've allowed into this country our right to vote that they don't have. This is all this is about.
That's what it is.
Okay, I got two things because the former federal fuck up, she fucked up. Let me tell you why.
Oh yeah, how bad?
Number
she fucked
one,
up?
Real bad. First of all, I don't know if you heard the sleight of hand or word that she used. She talked about, well, people, if you're married, women, if you have a passport, it might be different in your birth certificate. Well, guess what? In America, you need your birth certificate to get your passport.
Absolutely.
So therefore, it's a moot point because the birth certificate was used to get that same damn passport. Right? I mean, does that make sense? I told you she was a former federal fuck up, and I don't have a law degree.
That wig is too tight.
I don't have a law degree.
First of all,
you use your birth certificate to get the passport. So therefore, it's a moot point. It doesn't even have to match because you've already gotten the passport that was confirmed with the birth certificate that you used to get it.
By the Department of State.
That's number one.
Right. It's not like you picking it up at the liquor store.
Right.
The Department of State
again,
certified.
I don't even have a law degree, former federal fuck up. But anyway, there was another article, and this was an article as recently as May 2021. And the title of the article is, why do most countries require voter IDs, ? And then the answer was, they have seen massive voter fraud problems. And the article goes on, at least in the abstract, it talks about how most of Europe has voter ID. You have to use ID to vote in Europe. Now, the last time I checked, most, if not all of Europe was what we call industrialized.
Absolutely.
Modern.
Absolutely.
So something's wrong with them that they require voter ID. That's only Europe. There are other countries around the world that do so as well. Yeah. But again, the former federal fuck up is trying to use a sleight of hand. When I heard that again, I said, wait a minute. I have a passport. When I first got my passport.
Yeah.
You have to use the birth certificate, right?
First of all, and even to renew it.
Exactly.
Right.
And when I got my passport, I think no, I didn't. I got it in the military. But nevertheless, when I got it, I had my second, my quote unquote out of the military one. It had my maiden name, but I had to use it to get my passport.
Yes.
So what the hell is she talking about?
She's lying. They want fraud and waste in the voting system, just like they want to end Social Security. They never like anyone that is actually trying to go about things the right way. This is what they're doing. And look, again, people buy alcohol, they get SSI, they get Social Security, welfare checks. All of this you have to provide identification for.
Absolutely.
There is really very, very little that you I don't even know how you can go through life really without some type of ID.
Let me tell you, if they're that type of indigent, right? Social services is involved, and social services will get them an identification.
Exactly.
Will absolutely do that. I think it was might have been Afghanistan. I can't remember, but some Muslim nation was having their first quote unquote democratic type election, and they don't have IDs. But you know what they were doing? They'd go up and put their little ballot in the box, but before they put the ballot in there, they had to put their thumbprint, right, to prove their identity on that paper ballot in order to make it count. Again, this is not about what's right. This is not about culture. This is about winning elections.
Right.
All of this is about winning elections. Gerrymandering happens on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
It is about winning elections. It's very much political theater, but it's the bigotry of the low expectations. Tell me again that Black women can't get an ID. Where?
I know plenty of people who have never driven. Older
yeah.
who have never driven a car, but they have ID.
Of
Because
course.
they go get, like you said, to buy their personal items, whatever. They have a state ID, a non-driver's license ID, a valid ID. Yes. They go to the pharmacy. They go to the doctors. They use it maybe to catch public transportation. Whatever the case, whatever they need it for, they have ID. These people, again, another table. I wish we could sit around.
Oh,
Yes.
but we all know what it is. Just like the last segment, we were talking about Abby Phillip on CNN, talking about basically saying she agreed with illegal immigration. Now you have Sonny Hostin on here talking about we shouldn't have voter ID to vote. They want to do it because they want to cheat.
Yes.
They know having voter ID makes it harder to cheat. And again, these people want lawlessness.
Exactly.
They want lawlessness. I don't understand how anybody can go say to the contrary.
That's it.
They've proven it. They've showed their hand. But, that was one thing when we were working the Trump campaign, the overriding sensation and the training kept telling you, we need to make this too big to rig.
Yeah,
it can't be close.
exactly.
It can't be 1%. So we had to hit not only our numbers, but 15% above that, simply because in some states, I think it was Georgia, when Trump was winning in 2020, one of the Georgia Dems posted on X, well, then Twitter, now X, oh, don't worry, I'm bringing 2,500, Democrat ballots. Well, how do you know what's inside the box? Because the box is supposed to be sealed. It's not supposed to be open. How do you know how many ballots?
And why are you carrying 2,500 ballots on somebody? I mean,
well, if America really knew how our votes were counted. So, I've been an election chief judge, and what happens is that your ballot falls into a box. Those boxes are taped and secured, and a Democrat.
Oh, after the election, you mean? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They carry those votes back to the Board of Elections, and
Yeah.
you're definitely on the clock, and you need to be there in a timely fashion, and all those kind of things. But in some communities where it's heavily Democratic, people turn the other cheek. They look the other way. They see other things that are happening and don't pay attention to this absolute voter fraud in front of you. One of the ways that we can make sure that doesn't happen is by making sure everyone has an identification.
Absolutely.
And if you get to your polling place and you don't have identification, there should be many, many other ways to certify that you are who you say you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, Sonny Hostin doesn't speak for Black Americans. She speaks for the elite bubble of liberal media. Voter ID is not racist. It's responsible. If you believe the election should be safe, secure, and fair for everyone, drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe.